Now, you might think a vehicle like the Honda Accord Cross Tour would not interest our guy in the Quaker State garage, Bill Gardiner, because as we all know, pickups are Bill's life. But what you might not know is that once upon a time, Bill Gardiner actually owned a car, and it was a Honda.
You're right, Brad. 91 Civic Si, and you know, that car sat in my shop in the wintertime, never saw any road salt. I sold it to Alfonso. He had a car detailing shop, and I pretty much threatened his life if he were to drive it in the wintertime. He cleaned that car up and spiffed it up. It looked like a brand new car. I was so proud of that car, and selling it to him, it was a great experience. Then he sold it to Rob, and Rob got in touch with me through our show, so I'm kind of keeping tabs on my 91 Civic Si as it goes through the years, and I'm kind of wondering how long it'll last. You know, powertrains and Hondas are really good. I love the look of that new Accord Cross Tour. It looks fantastic. I like the hatchback style of the body. And you know, nowadays, I've still got 3 Hondas. One's a lawnmower, one's a snowblower, and the other's a motorcycle, and I just love their power products. They're great. Now, this week I want to talk about a very common suspension noise that you can get in the rear suspension of many cars that have McPherson struts on all 4 corners. And that's when the upper mount on your McPherson strut wears out, and it can be a difficult thing to diagnose. The noise can be really bothersome. You tend to get the noise on rough pavement, especially if you're going over rough pavement, say turning into a driveway or anything where one wheel hits ahead of the other, and you'll hear a banging or clunking or thumping sound in the rear suspension. And when you lift the vehicle up and you look under there, you may not see anything that looks out of place, looks worn, damaged. But when you go to the top end of the strut and remove the strut from the vehicle, you'll see the problem. Now, the strut on this Elantra is still in there. There's nothing wrong with it. We're just using it for a frame of reference. But there's an example of one of these upper strut mounts that wore out. Now, this one came out of about an 02 or 03 Chevy Impala, a GMW body car. And if you look in the middle of this upper strut mount, you can see that rubber portion, and this basically is a rubber isolator that isolates noise and harshness from the rear suspension from entering the cab of the vehicle, the passenger compartment of the vehicle. And if you look in the center of that rubber, you can see it's all chewed up and all egg-shaped, and that steel sleeve is supposed to be properly bonded in there. It should be part and parcel of that. You shouldn't be able to separate the two. So when I took the suspension apart in the Impala, one side had done this. One side was perfect. The other side had this worn out mount. Compressed the spring, replaced this mount, put it back in, noise fixed. And you know what? It often is a process of elimination going through that rear suspension to determine where that noise is coming from. And it often comes down to looking at everything, determining there's no other problems, and then going into the struts. And another interesting thing is, this particular customer with the Impala took it into a dealership for servicing. They had lifted the car up on the hoist. When you do that and the suspension hangs down, it tends to move this to a different position. The noise got really bad. It got a lot worse. So he thought they'd actually done something wrong to the car. They hadn't, in fact. I explained that to him because he was kind of cheesed off at the dealership. It wasn't their fault. They were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that is the nature of these things. When you lift them up on the hoist and it hangs down, the noise may change dramatically. So there's another way to diagnose it. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardiner for Motoring 2010.